evening, viewers, and welcome to the Art with World. I am your host, WAHEED. Today we are talking about theatre situation in Pakistan, and we have a very distinguished guest with us, Shahid Mehmood Nadeem Saab. Shahid Mehmood Nadeem Saab has written plays for TV, theatre. He has been a human rights activist as well, and he has written scripts for films as well. We are very lucky that he has spared time to be with us today. Welcome to our show, Shahid sir.
My pleasure.
How are you?
Good, but since we are in the middle of a theatre festival,
Yeah.
so there are tensions all around.
I can understand. But I think a lot of people have come to see your plays in Islamabad.
We had a 3-day festival at PNCA,
Yeah.
which was every day it was fully packed, different play each day, because we are celebrating 40 years of
Yes.
Ajoka. So we had selected plays from different decades of Ajoka.
Yeah.
And then we have a special performance at Islamabad Club of our famous play, Bulla.
Bulla and Dara and Tisi Dastak as well. I think these are your plays, which was staged here.
That's right.
And as this is the 40th year of Ajoka Theatre Group, well, it's amazing for me at least because I had a good opportunity to see its earliest plays in 80s, back in 80s.
Right.
And I think it was founded in 1984.
Yes.
And those were very interesting times in many ways. There was a lot of oppression, but there was a lot of hope as well. There was a lot of struggle as well. People were doing in different walks of life, in politics, in social scene, in theatre, arts, writing, literature. So I think we should start our discussion with reflecting back in those times and when you started Ajoka Theatre Group.
Well, I started writing plays in the 70s and as a student at the Punjab University. And I was a political activist, so I had a certain vision of society and how to fight injustice or oppression or clergy's influence over society. And then in 1984, when Madiha, my late wife, she founded the group, there was no platform for dissent or platform to express people's revulsion at the state of affairs. So when Ajoka's first play, Jaloos, was presented in May 1984, the people really flocked, although it was presented in a house lawn, but people found expression. So the actors as well as the audience, they were a part of this process. And they got such tremendous response that then they never looked back, and Ajoka went on from strength to strength, and it's now 40 years.
Well, this is a great contribution to theatre scene in Pakistan, which Ajoka has contributed. But before that, I mean, you have just mentioned your inclinations towards social movements as well. So would you like to tell us how your interest in theatre developed? And before theatre, as I know of you, you were also involved in students' politics, students' movements, maybe Young People's Front, a group, perhaps you were also a member of that. And how it transformed into your, then when you decided to express yourself through theatre, through art, instead of just direct social movements.
Well, I believed in changing the world and bringing about a new order which is based on equality and justice and enlightenment. And for that I struggled. I became a student activist or a leader. So taking out processions, shouting slogans, throwing stones at the police or getting beaten up by the police, that was like a daily routine. I was imprisoned a few times, sacked or rusticated from Punjab University as a student, and then got back. So they were very turbulent times, very challenging times, and very trying times. So I found out that we have to change the mindset, the vision, the the thinking, the value system, a change of hearts of the people.
Yeah.
So I realized that for that, stone throwing or shouting slogans is not good enough or not really a priority for me. And at the same time, when I was throwing stones and shouting slogans, I was also involved in Halka Bab-e-Zawq,
Yeah.
a literary organization from pre-Pakistan times.
Yeah.
And there I was submitting short stories and participating in literary discussions. So I realized that I think that is where I can help change the mindsets, change the people. And one of my first plays, which was actually... Exactly. It was actually first read at Halka Bab-e-Zawq meeting. And this talked about the knocks, third knock.
Yeah.
At that time, it was the third knock which was coming. So gradually then I moved to writing. And I was in, when I was in exile in the 80s in London, I applied for a job at Amnesty International, the biggest human rights organization in the world. And there I was asked that, do you believe in non-violence? So I said, yes, I do believe in non-violence. I believe in struggle for ideas and struggle according to your conscious, non-violent means. But sometimes when I get very frustrated at the thick brick wall blocking our way, sometimes I feel the itch in my hand to throw a stone. And they all laughed, including Martin Annals, one of the great human rights leaders. And I think that's why I got the job. And then for next 8 years, I worked for Amnesty International. So that itch is still there. I sometimes feel that how to break this wall. So should we get a bulldozer, or should we keep on pushing, extending the limits, and finally arrive at a just and egalitarian solution?
I happened to see your plays in your early days. I think you have just mentioned it was staged in a lawn. I think it was Madiha's house
Yes,
where it
that's
was staged.
right.
Later it was, there was a guy in Garden Town, Kazilbash Sahab.
Yes, that's
in
right.
his house some plays were staged, and then sprawling lawn of Goethe Center. They were generous enough to provide you that place.
Exactly.
I think these were the few places where...
yes, apart from streets and factory yards and village commons. But Goethe Institute became our base for many years. In the 80s, most of the 80s, from 84 to I think 90s, mid-90s. So they had a lawn which was not being used apart from some tennis games. So we started rehearsing, we started performing, and then it became a regular venue for Ajoka as well as for other groups. And somehow the government of those times, they thought Goethe Institute has diplomatic immunity. So that became our like second home, the Goethe. And my son Nirvan practically spent more time in the Goethe Institute lawn where we were rehearsing than at home. Then gradually things changed. And Alhambra Arts Council was opened for us, and we were able to perform there with certain censorship restrictions. But whenever we felt that this play is not being performed or allowed by the Arts Council regime, then we found other ways. For example, my play on Sufi poet Bulle Shah, Bulla. I wrote a play and that was like in the beginning of 2000. And we wanted an enclosed space, and we applied and we submitted the script. And they kept on lingering and not responding. Finally, when he pushed, they said that this play is a biography. It cannot be allowed. So then we found Goethe Institute was actually by that time taken over by a commercial group. And we then performed the play there. The play Bulla, which we have now performed just 2 days ago, and we are performing today as well. that was first not allowed, and now that is one of the most important plays coming from Pakistan, performed all over the world, from the US and Denmark and India and Iran, everywhere. But originally this was not allowed, and we found another way.
Apart from that, you were not allowed to perform, but I think just to conceive that idea and to transform into play must have been a challenge for you, because it was a kind of biopic. It was on someone's life, and then there were complex ideas, and his poetry is very rebellious in nature, but at the same time it has a lot of connotations, and it challenges everything. And to organize it into a theatre form, it must have been a challenge for you, I think.
It was actually, I would dare to say, it was a pioneering effort, because by that time no one had thought that our indigenous stories, like story of Baba Bulle Shah, they have some dramatic potential. So we then, when I wrote the play, I was very committed to Bulle Shah, his poetry, his vision of society, but at the same time, we was looking for dramatic potential. But I found a lot of dramatic stories. I was not confined to the actual stated recorded facts. Sometimes myths associated with Baba Bulle Shah, or some minor incidents in his life, but which could be developed into a dramatic situation. So I found them, and in one case, I created them. For example, Banda Singh Bairagi, a very well-known Sikh warrior, and who's very highly regarded in the Sikh hierarchy system. They lived in the same time, Bulle Shah and Banda Singh. Bulle Shah,
Bairagi.
Banda Singh Bairagi,
Okay.
then later on he was called Banda Singh Bahadur. So Bulle Shah was fighting injustice, or the system, or the monarchy, and or the suppressive rulers, with a message of peace and Sufism. While Banda Singh was fighting the same system with the sword and taking revenge and engaging in bloodshed and cruel practices, although he had some rationale or some justification. So I thought that there was no record that they were ever met, but I thought they should meet.
Yeah, okay.
For dramatic reasons. So we made it clear in the brochure or before the play that we have taken the poetic license or dramatic license, and I made them meet and challenge and point each other's point of view, whether you should fight tyranny with peace and non-violence, or whether you should fight tyranny with eye for an eye. And this made the play more significant. And in the end, we realized that Banda Singh Bairagi was in fact a Sufi from inside. He was a sadhu originally. And if there were more people like Bulle Shah, then maybe the violence which followed might not have taken place. Now, interesting thing about this is how myths and how history is created. That I made them meet, and then this was discussed in India, in Pakistan, on at the scholarship level also, that how I made them meet, whether it is justified. But many years later, I read a message on the net from a very well-known writer, Devinder Satyarthi.
Yeah, I know.
He actually mentioned that when Banda Singh Bairagi and Bulle Shah met, this is what Bulle Shah said and this is what Banda Singh said. So he didn't realize that he was taking this scene from my play and stating it as a historical fact. So I realized that's how our history
is made like that.
Myth and reality is mixed up.
Yeah. History, half of history and more than that is a fiction, I guess.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it also tells that in literature, through fiction, and through your imagination, you create something which may not be true, but they are the best way to tell the truth. I mean, a lot of people have said, Picasso has said, and some other writer as well, that fiction is a lie. But this is it is written in a way that it helps you understand the truths.
That's right.
Kind of these
Yeah.
things to that
I
effect.
would again give you one more example from my play on Manto, Kaun Hai Ye Gustakh. And this play was the basis on which the television serial Main Manto and the movie Manto was written by me. So in the, Manto, the play, and also in the movie, I created a character of a woman, a kind of every woman or a alter ego of Manto, because I had to present Manto's point of view, Manto's opinion, Manto's psychological trauma. So then he is confronted with this woman who asks her question or gives him inspiration. So that woman also did not exist, but I didn't create it out of the blue, because Manto had mentioned his alter ego in various ways, Hamzad, and also he had said that to write about women, you have to become a woman, and the creative process of a writer and the labor pains of a woman are similar. This is actually when he challenged Ahmed Nadeem Kasmi.
Ahmed Nadeem Kasmi, B.A.
Yeah.
He would always
So
say.
he actually told Kasmi through dialogue and through letters that you write about peasant women, but what do you know about women unless you feel that pain? So your description of suffering is superficial. So this character of Hamzad, which I created, was actually based on what Manto felt. So that's how sometimes, for dramatic reason, as long as you are faithful to the original character, original story, I think that makes, as you said, easier for us to understand the truth.
Yeah, and many other great writers have also used this technique, like Milan Kundera in his novel Immortality. He has written a dialogue between Ernest Hemingway and Goethe. There was a difference of 2 centuries perhaps in their lives, but he just made a conversation between them to highlight what he wants to portray in his story. And this is very interesting, that if you want to write for a woman, you have to experience that.
Yeah.
But that would still remain controversial. You can't experience what actual experience is. You can just experience through your imagination.
Yeah, the pain is there for a creative writer, and Manto was full of pain, and that's why he became an alcoholic. That pain was to create a new world, new baby, just and peaceful and truthful world. And the truth, the way it was being suppressed in society, and how people were wearing different masks. And I will give you one example, that Manto was being accused of violating the norms of society, although he was just writing about people whose life reflected a certain segment of our reality.
I think that's a very sad story as far as Manto is concerned. He had written, world-class short stories. And there were a lot of people who came into the court. Someone said that it's fine, whatever he has written, but some of the writers who were witness against them. And what happened with Manto in this country, it's very sad, I think.
Indeed, and
he was a genius in our literature, and he had to meet this fate.
Really, we killed Manto, and at an age when he was being so prolific, so creative. It was his...
he was in 40s when he died.
Early 40s, in fact, So I think that's a sad story, but also that is a source of inspiration for writers who want to tell the truth and do it in a creative way. So how Manto made, like Siyah Hashiye about the violence and the madness during the partition, the killings. I think that is the best possible or most objective understanding of the madness which accompanied partition.
Yeah, just 1-page stories, but they tell a lot.
Half a page in some cases.
And of course, you also stage his plays Toba Tek Singh, I guess.
Yes.
And he had written two great short stories like Tetwal Ka Kutta
Right. Yeah.
and Toba Tek Singh.
Yeah.
Toba Tek Singh you staged.
Yeah. Toba Tek Singh, also Titwal Ka Kutta.
But that was read out by Uzma Gilani in that stage, I
Yeah,
think.
that was Titwal Ka Kutta and Akhri Salam. But Toba Tek Singh was performed, and then Naya Kanun was performed.
Ah, that is
In
wonderful
fact, in
play.
Naya Kanun, the Gora Sahab was played by the grandson of Allama Iqbal,
Javed Iqbal.
Walid Iqbal, who is now a senator.
Yeah.
So he was
Yeah,
used
he
to be
also
an
tried
actor.
in TV plays as well in his early time. Yeah.
So he did a good job. Another person which you might not be aware of, Hamid Mir,
I know.
he started with Ajoka. And the earlier play, like Jalus, he acted as the police officer or the bad boy in the play, and toured with us in Sindh and Punjab. So there are such people who have grown from Ajoka and then branched in different ways. Like one of the owners of PSL, the
I know them, I have
Lahore
seen.
Kalandar,
Yeah,
Rana
Fawad
Fawad.
Khan.
He also started with Ajoka. So, I mean, theatre has, like Ajoka, has moved in these 40 years from a group performing in the open as a street play or as a community play with very minimal props or other embellishments, stage and set, lights, video projection. But over the years, we have now very grand productions also, like Dara, which we had here at PNC yesterday, or Burka Vaganza, another play in which video is an important part of the play. So we have now worked with various techniques and borrowed from the world theatre techniques, but we have remained steadfast in our commitment to our society and to the ideas of social justice, and that is the reason why we have survived so long. But in terms of our production values, we have changed and we have experimented in various ways.
Well, I would like to listen more from you regarding experimentation of techniques in your plays. But before that, I would like to hear from you. You have staged Brecht's plays, and Brecht also introduced a new technique in theatre,
Yes.
like breaking the barriers between audience and the stage. Did you apply his techniques in the plays, or you just adopted?
Yes, we were actually, it was Brecht who adopted from the South Asian theatre tradition, where they used narrators, Ravi or Sutradhar, they used half curtain, they used interaction, they had interaction with the audience, and they did not give the illusion to the audience that
this is
is another reality.
Yeah.
They were just a part of that. The actors would interact with the audience. So these are the techniques which inspired Brecht to develop his kind of theatre, the epic theatre. And the main idea was that you should not create this illusion which results in a catharsis. People come and they watch the story, they get involved with the story, and they cry or they are happy, and they then unburden themselves and go out empty-minded. He said that the audience should be given this food for thought and given this disturbed condition that something has to be done about the state of affairs. So that suited us, and Brecht wrote during the times of Hitler and dictatorship. So it suited us, and we then adapted his plays, not translated but adapted, and Brecht adapted so well in Pakistani situation, to the extent that we were performing three penny opera adaptation, Takeda Tamasha in Lahore, and there were not very democratic policies by the government at that time. So they banned the play, locked the gates. They refused to believe that it was an adaptation, because Brecht's character, Brecht's point of view, Brecht's approach towards theatre was so inspirational for us. But we did not kind of totally commit ourselves to one particular style of theatre. So, for example, when we adapted the Resistible Rise of Arturo Ui, one of Brecht's plays about Hitler's rise to power. So we adapted it as Bala King, and it was placed in the inner city of Lahore, and the Bala King was actually Bala Pahalwan, a Gunda from the Taksali Gate, and how he becomes respectable and how he becomes a leader of the people through intimidation and through bribery and through machinations. So when this play was performed, we also used music. Brecht also used music, but Brecht's music was different, Western jazz music. But for us, it was our popular songs, folk songs or film songs, and they were different. They were more enjoyable because in our tradition, music is always a part of theatre or any other performance. So when the play was presented for the first time, a German team had come to help us through the Goethe Institute with the design and with music or something. And they saw the play in Punjabi, and the audience saw the play. Audience thoroughly enjoyed it. They refused to believe it was an adaptation. But when I asked the designer, the German, I said, did you follow the play because it was in Punjabi and it was an adaptation? He said, I could very clearly follow the original Brecht scene by scene, what is happening now, although it was Taksali Gate and it was not Soho as presented in Brecht's plays. So that is the beauty of adaptation, that the original soul and structure is there, but for the audience, it's their own indigenous production.
You also staged, I think, Steve Bantu Biko's play, Cry Freedom. Did
yes,
you?
We did a play on Steve Biko's trial, basically, and that was done in solidarity with the movement in
anti-racist
movement. Anti-apartheid movement. And in fact, Madiha's mother was from South Africa and had known Nelson Mandela and very committed to the third world causes. With her inspiration, we presented that play. And also there were some other plays, Dushman Lahu Se Raat Ki Kaluk Hui Halal, and some Faiz plays, which was about either anti-apartheid movement or Palestinian struggle. So that aspect is there even today, like a few months back, and that's ongoing. We are doing Gaza monologues, which are actually based on letters by the young Gaza residents about what is happening to them. And we have been presenting it at colleges, universities, and Alhambra. So our commitment to the international movement for justice and liberation, that goes on.
Well, there's so many things. I think if we are just talking of individual plays, we will leave our bigger topics. But before that, I would like to discuss Dara with you, because it has a unique theme, and Dara Shikoh himself was a unique character in at least dominant political groups of kings in subcontinent. So how did you choose to think this theme, and what was its adaptation? And I guess it was very well received internationally and even in India as well. So just a few.
Right. Yeah, Dara, like Bulla, I realized that Bulla, his poetry and his reference is so bold and so radical, and at the same time so deep-rooted in our society that people really love him and accept. Sometimes if he digresses or in his relationship or reference to the Almighty, people understand the Sufi interpretation of Islam. So similarly, Dara was also an inspiration because I noticed that Dara is reduced to a footnote in history when you write about Mughal history and the fall of Mughal Empire, Zawal ke Asbab and all that. So then I realized that he actually represents that Sufi tradition like Bulle Shah, like Shah Hussain. So then I started exploring Dara. And I realized that the Aurangzeb who won the war of succession, he had totally placed Dara in the history books. And he has to be revived and celebrated because he was not just a crown prince, he was also a poet, an
Learned man,
artist, a
Sufi.
scholar of comparative religion who was the first person who translated Hindu mystical text Upanishads from Sanskrit to Persian. And from Persian, they were translated in German and then in English. And that's how Hindu Vedant philosophy or the mystic philosophy became known to the world. So he was such a great scholar who wanted to bring together the various communities in India so that the Mughal rule is strengthened. But there was this other streak of mullahs and qazis and then represented by Aurangzeb. So then I explored and I realized how dramatic his story was. And I think the Shakespearean tragedies are nothing compared to the Dara story. Because in Dara, you have Shah Jahan, the father, who has these brothers who are at war with each other. Dara on one side and Aurangzeb and Shuja and Murad on the other side. Then you have two daughters, Jahan Ara and Roshan Ara. Roshan Ara supporting Aurangzeb, Jahan Ara supporting Dara. So it's a very dramatic story and the father can't understand. He was wondering whether it was his mistake or what happened, why they are killing each other. So then it was not just a war of succession, it was a war of ideas also. Unfortunately, Dara lost, and because I think Dara lost because there was, as represented in the play also, there was a conflict within. On one side, there was the crown prince, the commander and the warrior. He has to conquer, he has to defeat enemies and kill enemies. On the other hand, he was a Sufi who believes in forgiveness and who believes in love and compassion. So this conflict within himself actually tore him apart.
Yeah.
And if these contradictory qualities, this is the question which we pose, if these contradictory qualities of a Sufi, a man of the people and man of peace, and a ruler who has to rule, but if the ruler can rule with the message of peace and love, then we can have an ideal philosopher king. And if Dara
it would
had
never happen.
yeah, and
It has never happened before.
well, there had been attempts, but it have never
Exceptions are
succeeded.
always,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we have asked this question: what if Dara had won the war of succession instead of Aurangzeb? Would the history of India be different?
Yeah, that's good. And I think it was very well received in UK as well, and this play stage.
Well, in India it was very well received, and in fact we performed in Hyderabad, where Aurangzeb is, I think, buried.
Yeah, most of his time he spent in Deccan,
Deccan, yeah, that's
fighting with
right. Yeah.
others.
So we performed and it was extremely well received. Then we were invited by the National Theatre of London, the biggest theatre organization in the world, in fact. And they then, it was a long process. They adapted my play into English. I worked with the adapter, and then they came to Pakistan. I took them to Nadra's tomb near Mia Mir's shrine. Then I took them to India, to Delhi and Agra. So, and a process of 3 to 4 years, and then this grand production of Dara took place in 2015. And it was such a huge success. not only popular level, not only among the South Asians, but the general white middle class audience of National Theatre, and at the same time critically acclaimed by the very highbrow English theatre critics, and it was called the best play of the decade and play for the century, and they realized that this version of Islam, the Sufi Islam and Islam with the message of peace and inclusivity, this has never been forcefully presented to the West. So that play was ran for 3 months. Every day it was packed. And now the film they made of the performance, it is now on online at National Theatre at Home site, where they present some best 10 plays or so of National Theatre. And it is also now used by schools and colleges to teach them about the Sufi Islam or the Indo-Muslim culture. So we are very proud that this was the first play adapted by National Theatre from this region and presented to the world audience.
Coming back to your intention to bring social change through theatre, I am having few questions. Number one is, I would like to listen from you your experiences if you have really succeeded in bringing any social change.
Theatre alone cannot bring change, but change cannot be brought without performing arts and theatre, because theatre and other performing arts, they create a certain fertile soil in your heart where you can receive message of peace, you have compassion, you can relate to other human beings who may be from a different creed or a different color. Symbolic significance, people can relate, and this brings a change in their attitude that they should be able to, or they are able to in many cases, to relate and understand the other side. And so similarly, we have impacted, like Ajoka has inspired theatre movement in Pakistan. There are now several groups either grown out of Ajoka or inspired by Ajoka who are also doing theatre for social change or meaningful theatre. But at another level, the individuals do change, and then individuals then become a part of the overall change process. So we get so many people who sometimes meet us after many years and say that your play, so and so plays, inspired us and it made us change our position. Like a girl who was being married and was not being allowed to have higher studies. She decided to have higher studies and then move out. And I met her in New York and she said, well, your play on the cause of women inspired me. So similarly, the actor who has been doing Shah Inayat role in Bulla, Asim Bukhari, a very well-known actor for television, he played the role of Shah Inayat, the Sufi master of Murshid of Bulle Shah. And during the process, I think he performed for 15 years or so, this role. He has become a Sufi poet himself. He has got 2 books published of Sufi poetry, and I think a 3rd is coming. So sometimes individuals also get changed. And we are a part of the process. We are not a change ourselves, and we don't believe it. We don't give a kind of cut and dried solution, a propagandist solution that this is what you should do. We just present a situation, present the conflicts, and encourage people to find a solution.
And at the same time, I mean, it's a related question, it's the trade-offs between artistic aesthetics and the message you want to convey. I mean, maybe, of course, you are trying to bring, are you thinking that your message would bring a social change, but still it's your idea. So, and you are biased towards it as well. And to just convey your idea, to package it into a theatre form, you may compromise some artistic aesthetics or intellectual rebellion, which can rebel against any thought. I mean, something like that.
Well, we are not a, what they call agit-prop theatre. We are not there to promote a certain political cause.
Okay.
So, and we are not there to lecture or reform people. We are there to tell a story, and we are there to entertain people through, but entertainment with enlightenment, a different interpretation of entertainment. So our primary motive is to tell a good story, a good dramatic story, and the message automatically creeps in. And I conduct writing classes also, creative writing classes, and I tell them, just keep the message at the back of your mind. You're there to tell a story, you're there to engage the audience. So that is our first priority. And then we don't, as I said earlier, we don't give a cut and write solution because we are interested in conflict. Drama is about conflict. So for conflict, you have to bring two characters, a protagonist and an antagonist, a hero and villain, 2 points of views. Maybe the points of views are justified on both sides.
Before ending our session, I would just like to hear few comments on general scene of theatre in Pakistan. The other groups who are still doing plays like you, mainstream commercial theatre, and some theatre produced by Napa Academy in Karachi. How do you view it, all this?
Well, there are good things and bad things which are happening in the theatre world. But actually, as it is said, the bad times are good time for theatre. Yeah. Because bad times create a certain response, a challenge, give you more energy, more inspiration, more courage. So, so we are not disappointed if things are bad in society, if there is injustice, if there is kind of focus or pressure from the extremist mindset, or if people are impoverished. But we believe that through theatre we can give them hope, through theatre we give them some entertainment, so we keep on doing that. Now, as far as the theatre movement is concerned, we differentiate between the theatre movement or theatre for social change or quality, meaningful theatre, and the so-called commercial theatre, which is basically very crass, culturally very low level mujra and jugat theatre. Although great talent shown in those films, in those plays, but there is no script, there is no direction, there is no lighting, nothing to do with theatre. So that is hardly theatre. That we think we shouldn't totally suppress it, because then it will appear in some other form. But it should not be supported or subsidized by the government or by the corporate sector. If there is a certain clientele, then let them handle it differently, like in other countries. As far as theatre in Karachi or Lahore, there are good signs, and Napa has been a good story but limited impact. Now Arts Council Karachi is also playing an important role, holding international festivals and academy, and they have set up. In Lahore, unfortunately, the theatre training is very limited. Ajoka Institute runs classes for actors and writers and children. Then theatre is taught at some institutions, but that is not practical theatre. They hardly get any benefit from their training in the real life. But colleges, universities are producing good theatre, and there are some groups, handful of groups who are committed to this cause. So I would say that theatre movement is not weak or ineffective, but if we get good support from society at large and less hassle from the official circles, I think theatre can be not only more effective, more widespread, but also help build us an image of a rich, a country rich with cultural heritage and what we call soft image of Pakistan. So I think that the society, the state, and the artist community, they should join hands and they should create certain fertile ground so that talented people are not taken away by the meaningless television drama or very
Theatre.
low level commercial theatre, and we have socially meaningful, enjoyable theatre.
Great, Shahid sir. It's a 40-year of Joka and just 10 years short. I wish we should have another conversation on Golden Jubilee of Ajuka.
Inshallah.
Thank you very much for spending time with us, and
It was my pleasure. Nice talking to you.
same here. So viewers, thank you for watching. See you next Sunday, same time.